Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we are going full-blown fall mode and using this vinyl from Paint Between Dreams along with some kind of signature fall themed colors, and we are going to make an ombre. So we're going to start out with this opaque sheet of vinyl. This is from Custom Creations. We are going to use the hinge method to apply this vinyl to a prepped 32-ounce plump from the Tipsy Magnolia. As always, I have a discount code for Tipsy in the description box. And we are going to apply that vinyl onto the cup, and we are going to push the backing off of that while simultaneously pushing the vinyl onto the cup. And then once we've got that all laid down, we are going to score that off with a nail or whatever your favorite tool is. And then we are going to cut that seam with an X-Acto knife. Next, I'm going around the top and bottom rims, and I'm just going to pull that tight around the rim just to make sure that there are no waves or bumps or anything along the rims of the cup before we trim that down to cut it off with the edge trimmer. Don't pull too tight on these because it will rip. Ask me how I know. But they are, for the most part, pretty flexible. Just don't use super ultra Hulk strength to pull it, or it will rip your entire sheet of vinyl. So we're just going to cut that off and go on the top and bottom rims with this edge trimmer. I just got this on Amazon. I'll link that below for you guys. And then once we've got all of that the way we want it, we're going to go in and pop any bubbles that may have presented themselves when we had laid the vinyl down. I do want to say that you don't have to lay the entire 12 by 12 sheet of vinyl down as a full wrap on the tumbler. I just didn't feel like measuring and trimming and whatnot with the printed vinyl. So I just laid it down, and then I'm going to use my tape as a guide. And when I laid my tape down, I taped over the section of the vinyl that did not have the seam. So I'm going to leave the seam exposed because that's what's going to be spray painted and glittered. And in the end, if you are doing a full wrap as opposed to cutting it off after glittering it, then you're not going to see that seam because it's going to be glittered over. So I'm just going to use my tape, and when you're laying the tape down, you want to be very cautious to make sure that they are at the exact same angle. If they're not at the same angle, if you're not lining those strips of painter's tape up flush to the previous one, it is not going to be the same curve or angle when the end result is done. So just be cautious of that. And then we're going to use the lines that we trimmed off on the seams at the top and the bottom as a guide to kind of know where we're going to end the painter's tape. And then we're going to leave that exposed because we're going to put a teal glitter in the bottom and the top rim to kind of pull the colors together to match the teal that's in this printed vinyl. Once I've got all the painter's tape laid down, I'm just going to take some transfer tape and cut it off to fit that exposed vinyl size, and we're just going to lay that right over top of that vinyl so we don't have to bother with any saran wrap or taping or anything like that. It just sticks to it and removes flawlessly. It doesn't pull the vinyl up. This is my new favorite hack, so I would definitely recommend using it if you haven't. And then once everything is covered, we're gonna go in with some spray paint. For this one, we're gonna use Reef from Iron Lac. I get this at Hobby Lobby. It's about $5 a bottle, and this is what I've used in place of the Krylon and Rust-Oleum, I've had a ton of issues with clumping on both of those brands, and this is a comparable price and I have zero issues with it clumping, so would definitely recommend using that. And then I'm going in with UV resin to apply Pickles from Peachy. I was being impatient this day. I wanted to get everything glittered before I had gone to bed, and so I just used UV resin here so I could immediately move into glittering next. So we're gonna cover that with Pickles. This is one of the colors in the most recent palette from the August Peachy palette. It is so pretty. It's like the perfect teal fall color. 10 out of 10 would recommend. It's like a medium chunky. And then we're gonna remove the painter's tape and the transfer tape before we cure that UV resin with a light. If you're doing it after, you're gonna run the risk of lifting up the vinyl and the glitter and undoing all of the work that you had just done. Once the glitter is adhered to the cup with that UV resin, we're gonna go back and tape those lines off again on the top and bottom rim, because we're gonna put a coat of UV resin over top of the glitter this time to make sure that there is no movement once we move into our regular coats of epoxy and we have the other glitter colors laid down. So we're gonna use the same process, just cover that in UV resin. Make sure you're removing that tape before you are curing that resin, otherwise it's gonna stick and pull things up. And once that is complete, we will cure that for probably about 2 minutes or so. I think I run it through 2 cycles of 99 seconds each on both the top and the bottom. And then we are going to move into our next steps. I also do want to mention I'm currently using the CC DIY UV resin. I just bought Resin Rockers UV resin, so I've only used it once. I will let you guys know once I've used it a little bit more which one I prefer. I am always honest with you guys. I'm not making any commission off of these referrals or anything like this, so I'm just truly telling you what works for me, what I like personally the best, so you don't have to waste money on products that are not going to work. So after that is all cured, next we're gonna go in and we are going to tape off the bottom and top rims, except this time we're gonna cover up that teal glitter that we had just laid down because we're gonna move into spray painting. So we wanna make sure that we're not getting any spray paint on that glitter that we've already got laid down. So once we have that fully taped off and covered, we're gonna go outside and work on our spray paint skills. I didn't have any dark burgundy on hand, so I just used black in place of it. You can't tell under Figgy that it is black versus burgundy, so either one will work if you don't have burgundy on hand. So we're gonna go in order and try to go darkest to lightest so we don't have any dark spray paint getting into the lighter portions. So we're gonna start off with black, red, kind of a pumpkin spice orange, yellow, and then gold at the bottom. Right now we're just doing kind of a rough draft roadmap, I guess I would say, just to kind of get the colors in place, see where I want them, and then we'll go back over and smooth things out to make sure it's truly kind of an ombre spray paint. We don't have any harsh lines or anything like that. I let that sit for a couple of minutes before I went back in to smooth out those harsh paint lines, and I knew I wasn't going to respray the black and the red, and so I didn't really worry about going darkest to lightest on this second pass. But I did want to ensure that the yellow was going to be kind of the forefront of all of those colors. It was easily darkened, I guess I would say, by the orange and the gold, and so I made sure to do that yellow very last so it had kind of a bright, vibrant base for that glitter to be laid onto. I didn't want it to drown out into the darker colors. You don't see yellow very often on tumblers, and I really wanted to make that stand out on this cup, and so I made sure that the spray paint was as vibrant as it could possibly be before putting the glitter on it. For this one, I am going to use the epoxy method to apply the glitter, but I'm going to use a little bit more than normal. Now, you don't want to use so much that your glitter is just sinking into it and you have these weird patches that you can see, but you also want just enough that it's going to allow you to continuously lay glitter down and kind of build up that ombre before you are getting full coverage. So there's kind of just a sweet spot you need to find. I would say maybe 5 mLs for half of a cup on a 32 ounce. But that's going to vary depending on the epoxy you're using, the viscosity of it, the size of your tumbler, your heat, if it's hot, if it's cold, it's going to spread thinner and thicker. So it's all going to vary. You just kind of have to play around with it and get a good idea of what your scenario is, I guess I would say, to do this. So the goal is to just be able to build coverage without getting any harsh lines on this ombre. Anyways, I do need to apologize for my horrible filming skills because I didn't realize that the camera was focusing on this shaky glitter bottle versus the actual cup that I'm trying to teach you guys. So just disregard that. And also, this is how much of a lunatic I am. I vacuum off my paper plates when I get cross-contamination. So pro tip, tap your tumbler off into the trash when you're tapping off the excess so you don't cross-contaminate your glitters. And moving on. So we're gonna go darkest to lightest. We're going Figgy at the top, and then Sangria and Winifred, and then we're gonna skip over the yellow and go into the gold. That is Goddess. Those are all from Peachy, and then the yellow is going to be Bumble from Chase Rae. I do have discount codes for both of those places for you guys. If you would like to use those, that'll save you 10%. That is all in the description box below. So you're just gonna see me going back and forth here. I'm just building coverage, trying to get a good blend. And quite honestly, if you didn't put a little bit of a thicker coat of epoxy, you would not be able to go back and forth this many times. I don't know how many times I went back and forth with this glitter. It was quite a few, but that is the key to getting a good ombre, in addition to obviously tilting your cup at an angle to allow it to flow up and down the cup. But really, the epoxy has a large part to play in getting that good blend. It just allows you to kind of fine comb that blend to get what you're looking for. So I would definitely recommend those two tips. You know, tilting it at a 90-degree angle really helps as well. And then once you've got the blend that you're looking for, you're gonna immediately pull that the tape off of the vinyl is what I was trying to say. And then we're gonna let that sit overnight to cure. And once it is fully cured the next day, we're gonna go in and spray seal the heck out of it so nothing moves before we move into the regular coats of epoxy. I used 3 coats of Krylon Triple Thick spray on this cup before I went into any epoxying. I was determined to not let a single speck of glitter move on that ombre. I love how it turned out. And then next we're gonna go in with 60 mLs of Flynn Sisters regular Artist Cure resin. I do have a discount code for the Flynn Sisters supply shop as well. That is good on epoxy, rhinestones, all of the things that she's got there. This is my favorite epoxy. You guys will see me use it over and over again. Would definitely recommend. So once that's cured, I'm gonna go around with this 120 grit sanding block and just make sure there are no pokey bits on either of the edges or along the seam of the vinyl and glitter where we're gonna lay down the vinyl pinstriping. We wanna make sure that's completely smooth. And then we're gonna go in with our Dremel and expose that fine line of stainless steel for our final coat of epoxy to adhere to. Once we've got that dremeled, we're gonna go and just hit it with the sanding block again to make sure all of that's buffed down flat. And then we're gonna go in with some 91% rubbing alcohol to wipe away all of that epoxy dust. Make sure it's clean before we move into the vinyl work and the last coat of epoxy. So at this point we have 2 coats of regular epoxy on it and then 1 extra coat of that UV resin on the teal. And then we're gonna go in with this baby pink vinyl. This is from Tech Wrap Craft, and if you look at the printed vinyl really closely, there's just little hints here and there of this pink vinyl. So I really wanted to tie that in, but I wanted to be very subtle about it because it doesn't really match the entire scheme of the colors, I guess I would say, but it is in the vinyl and it works very well together with the other colors in the vinyl. So I wanted it there just to tie everything in, but I wanted it to be not so in your face and obvious. So that was kind of what I was going for, and I think it turned out good. And so we're gonna cut the vinyl stripes at 0.08 for the pink, and then we're gonna go in at 0.06 for the textured gold striping. That is for the top and bottom rim. And I did put the top and bottom rim vinyl down first, so I had a good kind of roadmap for a starting and stopping point for my diagonal vinyl that I'm laying down here. So I figured it would be easier to just cut off a straight line for the diagonal seams if I had kind of a straight line to cut it against on the top and the bottom, if that makes sense to you guys. So we're just gonna lay both of those down, and then for the diagonal stripes I went in at 0.08 for the pink and then 0.05 for the textured gold. So I wanted that one to be a little more pronounced with the pink than the top and the bottom. I wanted it to be known but not super obvious and taking over the cup. So anyways, the once the vinyl striping was all on the cup, I went over that with a coat of polycrylic just to make sure none of that vinyl work lifted, and then just 1 final coat of the Flynn Sisters Artist Cure resin, and I used 30 ml of that, and this cup was done. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. I absolutely love how this turned out, and I'm so excited that it's finally fall time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that bell button, and I will see you guys next weekend.